You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Too often the Orthodox Jewish community is slandered by saying they don't really help out beyond their community, which is not the case. And especially with the tragic fire that took place in the Bronx, where people were killed and injured, the Orthodox Jewish community came out very, very strong. Our guest to discuss the help afforded by the Orthodox Jewish community is Mark Meyer Appel. He helped coordinate. He's the founder of the Bridge. I know him for more than 10 years that the Bridge is in existence. He's a community activist. He's involved in lots of ways of dealing with issues that affect us, including for many years being a child advocate. And he has led the current troop of people to go to help out in the Bronx. Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz joins us, a senior rabbi of Congregation Kehilat Jeshurun, Manhattan, KJ, very prestigious shul. I know Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz also for many years. I looked up his number. If I remember him from being in New York City prior to coming back to KJ. And joining us is Adina Adler, who is the Chesed and Community Outreach Coordinator at the Ramaz Upper School in Manhattan. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Let me begin with you, Mark Meyer Appel. So you coordinated and helped different clergy, including the Orthodox Jewish community, go out and help to the Bronx. How did it all come about?
Well, as the founder of the Bridge Multicultural Project, I have a relationship with most of the different ethnic groups in Brooklyn and citywide. I know many of the imams. I know a lot of rabbis, of course, and I know a lot of members of the Black community that are very active in the nonprofit organizations. And I've worked on projects of rescue with Haiti, with Jamaica, with Puerto Rico, with Florida. So when I got the call, when I heard the news on the television about the horrific fire in the Bronx, 19 people died. The fire was a small fire. It started with a heater, but because of the building was an old building and because doors didn't close for whatever reason, it engulfed in a terrible, terrible inferno, terrible tragedy. Over 19 people, many of them children, just died. It was horrific. I mean, this is a very large building. The rabbi and myself and Dina, we were at the building. We saw the building. The building was a huge building, 13 stories. There's so many families, hundreds of residents. As soon as I heard about it, I contacted some of my working group of Muslim, Jewish, Afro-American organizations, and everybody said, we have to do something about it. I contacted immediately the mayor's office. The mayor was extremely cooperative. One of the mayor's senior assistant, somebody who I have worked with for many years, Pastor Montrose, called me up and he said, listen, this is the supplies that you're going to need. This is where the supplies have to go. This is the people that you should call. And the mayor's office kept in touch with me hourly on the basis, giving me all the telephone numbers. And one of the phone numbers they gave me was Rabbi Steinmetz, who I've never met before. We spoke to Dina. We shared telephone numbers. So we were in constant contact entire week until Thursday. Thursday, at the Bridge, we began the caravan of 9 cars. Involved in our group were many Muslim organizations, Haitian organizations, many Jewish organizations, the Flatbush Jewish Community Fund, the Marine Park Jewish Community Council, many organizations, and including Shmira, a large contingency of the Shmira Patrol of Borough Park that supplied the van. We assembled over 1,400 blankets, toiletries, food supplies, canned supplies, and then we set up a date on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock to leave from Brooklyn to the Bronx. Of course, I spoke to Rabbi Steinmetz, and we coordinated with Dina, and we had each other's phone numbers. Dina left from the Bronx, and I left from Brooklyn, and we met in the Bronx. And when I met in the Bronx, Rabbi Steinmetz was there with Dina and the entire group of her Chesed Fund. She is the leader in the upper school in Ramaz of the Chesed Fund. And Dina was extremely cooperative and extremely, involved in this project. She bought tons of food, supplies, and when we came there, it was amazing to watch the streets of the Bronx. It was an area that probably none of us ever visited or ever have been there, right? And here we are standing with the Muslim groups, with 20 Hasidim, with boxes of supplies, and coming into dropping it off at the mosque, Sheikh Mosque, which was the central dropping point for all the supplies. And the feeling of all the students from Ramaz that were there, and the feeling of the rabbi, and the feeling of myself were incredibly hakaras hatov that we were able to do the deeds of Avraham Avinu. The rabbi will explain to you more in religious terms, but from a practical point, it was just a beautiful. You should see the eyes of the people in the Bronx, the eyes of the people of the community who've never seen a Jew before, some of them. But they were so impressed. And these are the kinds of projects that Israel has to be involved with. We can't live in isolation. We live in a world surrounded by billions of people that are not Jewish, that are not Ramas students, that are not Flatbush students, that are not Long Island students. And the respect. So there's two parts of this, but I'm going to let the rabbi speak first, and then I'll swing back to my remarks, which is not to do with it, but the rabbi will speak in the values of the Torah and where in the Torah it says that we got to be involved in Tikkun Olam.
Rabbi Steinmetz, I want you to address it because as I started the program, the assumption from many have, and I would say it probably comes from the non-Orthodox community, saying, well, the Orthodox community doesn't really get involved beyond its own, which is not true. I know whether it was in the tornado that took place in Kentucky or the fire in the Bronx, the Orthodox community rises to the occasion. But I'd like you to address what Mark said and also the fact that we are involved.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, and Dini can talk about what the school does, which is exceptional. But look, I mean, our involvement comes actually from this week's parsha. We're referred to as Mamlechas Kohanim. We're a nation of priests. Now, what does it mean to be a Cohen? I mean, we know that the paradigm of Cohen is Aharon. That's to be an Ohev Shalom and Rotev Shalom. I mean, that is our mission, is that we need to be the people in this world who are trying to make the world better. And, of course, you could talk in the larger sense of the idea of doing Hashem's work, of doing Chesed to all humanity, emulating what Avraham did for those who came when they were hungry and what Avraham did for Sodom. But you also have to talk about like the small picture. Like we like to talk about the grand terms of. I mean, I hesitate to use Tikkun Olam because it's already it carries a lot of baggage. But I mean, talking about this mission of Avraham, which is to create goodness in the world and to be Hashem's emissary in bringing goodness to the world. That's a grand term. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs used to say that he preferred thinking about it in the smaller level. He liked talking about Darkei Shalom. He liked talking about how it's that small interpersonal connections. And of course, Darkei Shalom is so important in the way the Rambam talks about it at the end of the Mishnah Torah, that is what brings peace into the world. When Jews recognize their responsibilities to non-Jews. The Rambam is talking specifically about that. So this is certainly very much a part of Orthodox Judaism. And I think Dini can talk about what an effect it has. And I want to sort of talk about the small picture, not the big picture. Of course, we're the Mamlechas Kohanim. Of course, we're meant to be an Or La'amim. Of course, it is our responsibility to help every human being. But the small picture of creating peace by just being there. And Dini will talk like what it meant to the students to meet everybody. We were there, and Mark Meyer brought the people from Shmira, which are Hasidim, and he brought the Nurses Network, and he brought a group of people who were involved in the Pakistani community. We were there. We were really like from all of the corners of the world. We were a miniature United Nations there, but we were all there to bring peace, to bring goodness. And I have to tell you, it like most times when you do Chesed, I walked away getting more than I gave. And I think Dini can talk about how that happened with the students as well.
Go ahead, Adina.
So this was very in character for Ramaz to have a tragedy anywhere really in the world. This just happened to be our neighbors, that Ramaz will spring into action and do whatever they can for their brothers and sisters wherever in the world they are. And it was very natural and expected. Sunday night, we already started planning. Monday morning, we had calls. And before I even had a chance to say anything to the students, they were coming into my office saying, what are we doing? How are we going to help? So we had organized a community drive that actually extended beyond the walls of Ramaz and our direct KJ community. There were people from all over the Upper East Side, from every walk of life, that are still tapping on our door, and our security is bringing in donations still every day. I actually wasn't in the building today, but I got a call asking where they want me to put everything. And of course, when I sent out a message to students asking if anybody wants to come with us to the Bronx to deliver some of the packages, I was expecting, being the week before finals, that students were not going to be willing to miss class, because Ramaz students really do live up to what everyone thinks. They are very studious and very serious about their classes, but just as much very serious about their chesed. It really is the beating heart of our community, so much so they had to turn students away. But please God, they'll have more chances to be involved. But it really is a central part of the core values of Ramaz.
We're looking at the community outreach from the Orthodox community to help the Bronx victims of a fire. Our guests include Mark Meyer Appel, founder of the Bridge, Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz, the senior rabbi at Congregation Kehilat Jeshurun on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and Adina Adler is the Chesed community outreach coordinator at the Ramaz Upper School. Ramaz also participated in helping out, reaching out to those that needed assistance. I was just curious, Adina, do other schools have a Chesed and community outreach coordinator? I know it's a unique position. Is this something special to Ramaz, or the other schools have it too? Because it's a great idea to put into practice what one learns, but is this unique to your school?
I think that's a very good question. From the schools that I've communicated with and I've worked with, it's very often a position that is grouped with other student activities. But in Ramaz, I also happens to be, when I came for the interview and started the process of learning more about Ramaz, I too was shocked that they have one person that is dedicated just to Chesed. And when I took the job, I was a little nervous, like, how can I actually fill my days with Chesed for 45 plus hours a week? And I'm working into the nights and into the weekends, because these kids love Chesed. They're begging for more opportunities. They're constantly coming with more opportunities.
So, Rabbi Steinmetz, it's not a wonderful thing to have the young people involved, not just on a textbook basis, but on a practical basis to help to really do something about it. It's a marvelous, marvelous thing. I wish more schools would also take that into account.
Yeah, and I would just say that, that this is really a Ramaz motto. I mean, Rabbi Luxstein, from his Soviet Jewry days, used to say that you should never let school get in the way of a good education, and that sometimes that the emphasis on academics prevents students from getting an experience that is far more important for them, spiritually and intellectually and emotionally. And, in Soviet Jewry, of course, it was going out every day to daven in front of the Russian consulate. But when it comes to Chesed, this is such a powerful experience. I mean, I'll tell you, when I saw the students speaking to some of the people in that particular community center, which is a mosque, for them, I mean, they'd never met anyone from Ghana. And it was just, it was an experience. I could see they walked away transformed by it. And that is really what this is all about. And like I said earlier, when you do Chesed, very often you walk away with more because it's put such a change in yourself. And so this is really part of what we're trying to do. If you want to be a complete person, if you want to build your neshama, so it's not just about learning Torah, it's not just about davening. In fact, in many ways, it's primarily about doing chesed and being able to transform what you learn into what you're able to do. And so this of course, I'm incredibly proud that this is a Ramaz position, and as Dini said, that she's following the footsteps of a giant, the Didi Benel, who Aleha Shalom, who built this position. But this is something that really is so important for our school and for our community.
No, marvelous. I was totally so impressed by this important thing. And Mark Meyer Appel, also, you were able to put together all the pieces, getting the Orthodox Jewish community, getting other Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, other community-based organizations all to work together. And that's because you're building the bridge over the last 10 years. So the connections are already there. You were able to just tap into it, right, when the time arose.
I think the rabbi mentioned some of the Torah's insight into doing chesed and into the value of chesed. But there's also another factor over here. We are faced daily. We've never been faced with so many anti-Semitic incidents in New York City. And when something happens, it's very hard. We represent 2% of the population. So when an anti-Semitic incident happens in New York City, when somebody's attacked on the subway, we can't do it alone. We can't fight racism and anti-Semitism alone. We learned from past. We learned from World War II, from other Holocausts, that we have to join with other communities if we want to win the battle against racism. So when you do an event of Chesed and the people of the Bronx, you have no idea. You have no idea. It brought tears to my eyes how many calls I got from different imams, from different people, from different organizations in the Bronx. They said, I can't believe that you bought us 1,500 blankets. You bought us food. You bought us supplies. You bought us bedding. You bought us sheets. The amount of goodwill, of building a relationship with other communities benefits our community as well as it benefits all the communities. And that's what's incredibly important. When a Jew gets attacked in Brooklyn today, in my district, in where the bridge is located, we have tremendous support from and it's important because of the elected officials, the mayor, the governor, senators. They look at the response of the community. And if the community has an outrage, then they react positively, providing us more police, providing us more security, providing more funding to yeshivas so they can put barriers and TV cameras and security devices. So there's a 2-point accomplishment here. First of all, like the rabbi mentioned, walking away from there that night, how we felt. We felt that we got something. We felt we got the blankets. We got the food. We walked home and we felt lucky to be alive and to have the zchut from the Rabbi Shalom to be able to give this kind of chesed and love to other people. So that's what it's about. I mean, and Dina was amazing. We were, we left Brooklyn at 10 o'clock and we made up to meet at about 11:30. But we were in phone contact on an hourly basis, making sure that everything comes to a proper point at the proper time at the proper place. We didn't want to just barge into a community blindly and just dump stuff. We wanted to do it with a plan, so people know we're coming. People are expecting us, and we have an ongoing and a continuing relationship that will obviously help build a relationship with your communities and support for Am Yisrael.
Very well said. In a few moments, we left, then we're looking at really what the community did to help those that were left homeless, those where lives were shattered, those who lost family members in the tragic fire in the Bronx. Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz, the senior rabbi of congregation, Kehilat Jeshurun. So this the kinds of things which is so important that the kids get involved, and I heard that the students are involved and the community is involved. Is there an ongoing dialogue between yourself and, let's say, some of the leaders in the Bronx or Muslim leaders to keep this going so there's an open rapport?
Well, I mean, we really felt that we do need to keep it going, and actually, Pastor Monrose, who was the one who facilitated this, and he's the head of the clergy council, the mayor's clergy council, and I was just texting with him today that we do need to figure out a way to continue this dialogue. I mean, we're so siloed. I mean, this is New York City, and particularly like, in Manhattan, you can literally live in one building and not know what's going on in the next building. I mean, I'll give you an example from this week, which was an interesting piece of outreach to us, is that there is a church around the corner from us, which you just walk on the street. And it was this week after Colleyville that the pastor, for the first time, reached out to all of us and said, I hope you're doing well. I'm really thinking of you, and I care about you. And actually, I sent her an email and I invited her to come visit our synagogue. I said, come by our synagogue. We'll give you a cup of coffee. We would love to be able to show you who we are and what we're doing, because we had never met. And that's part of the difficulty, is that it's not so much that, do we have connections to people in the Bronx? I mean, do we have connections to the people on the next block? Because this is Manhattan. And it really requires a conscious decision to build those bridges. And I think that particularly after this last week, I think we're all thinking about that, both as Jews and as New Yorkers, that we need those relationships. As Mark Meyer Appel was just saying, we need to build those bridges. I want to just emphasize one thing. He came, and like I said, he brought a multi-group. You had Hasidim there. And you had, Hasidim, where everyone's talking to each other in Yiddish, and then you have Pakistanis, and then you have from the Pakistani community. Then
were they talking in Yiddish too?
They were not. They were trying to learn Yiddish. We were working on sort of getting everybody to speak Yiddish, but it was so beautiful, and honestly, it was something that maybe was inconceivable. I mean, you would call it Mashiach Zeiten. I mean, this is really like something that you would not have ordinarily seen, certainly not 30 or 40 years ago. And here there is this sense of that we understand what we need to do to be connected. And like I said, Darkei Shalom is so much a part of what Judaism is that we need to learn how to have those small moments. When Rabbi Sachs would speak about Darkei Shalom. And like I said, he saw this as more important than the big picture, because people come with big plans and big pictures for peace and nothing happens. And it's just the little things. And Rabbi Sachs would talk about, and I related the story in shul recently, about Stephen Carter, who went on to become a very distinguished professor of law at Yale University. And Stephen Carter wrote about what it was like to be an 11-year-old black boy moving into an all-white neighborhood in Washington, D.C. in 1966. And he's told this story many times. He's written about it. And he comes in and he sees the hostility in everybody in the street. As his family's moving in, he's sitting on the front steps, and there's this feeling of hostility from everyone walking by. And then all of a sudden, a woman from across the street, Sarah Kestenbaum, comes with drinks and cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. And Stephen Carter, not exaggerating, said this was a transformative moment in his life, that this woman showed such kindness, such civility, such compassion, that it changed his outlook on life at age 11. I mean, I'm proud because I told the story in shul, and someone came over to me afterwards and said, "That's my aunt." But wow. This is. I mean, it's a large family, Kestenbaum, but this is a very. This is this shows you what we are meant to do, what we very often do, which is just understand that the person in front of you has Tselem Elokim, is in the image of God. Treat them with kindness and warmth and dignity. And you never know, just from a couple of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches, you can change someone and they can go and change 1,000 others. It's a very, very powerful thought, and it's so much a part of our tradition.
Powerful thought. And I also like the fact that you don't want to use the word tikkun olam, which the non-Orthodox movement usually use Darkei Shalom, ways of peace, which I know is a nice way of also saying the outreach work that we're doing.
I just wanted to say, Zev, that in reference, you asked what's the follow-up. I intend to start harassing Rabbi Steinmetz. I've spoken to Rabbi Potasnik already. I've spoken to the Imam from Staten Island, Tahir. I've spoken to many leaders, and I intend to push them into creating some kind of multicultural action council. So when something happens in the community, in any community, we're ready to act. Just like Dina and her girls at the Chesed Club got together. We are tired of press conferences. We want to get things done. So I intend to push that forward. I have a little reputation of being a little troublemaker and getting things off the ground. So I'm not going to stop. But I already
You're not scaring me,
not
Mark.
scaring
You're not
Rabbi
scaring
Chaim Steinmetz is the rabbi of a very modern school on the Upper East Side, but he's got a Hungarian neshama, a heart of gold, mamish, bottom yid, with a lot of armkeit.
Yeah.
I felt like I knew him all my life, right?
Yeah, I know.
And,
You meet people, and
many publications.
That's where
Even I picked up the 5 Towns Jewish Journal tonight, and they wrote a story about. And the headline of the story was Ramaz joins this program for the Bronx. So the word is going to get out. The word is going to get out. And you want to know something? This is not the first time it happened. There were other Jewish organizations, Masbia, that did a program. When Haiti had the earthquake, we had a Kloisenberger Chesed who didn't even want to be a picture. Came to my office. I brought the Congresswoman Clark there. He donated $100,000 worth of medical equipment, $150,000 worth of medical to Haiti. He didn't even want his picture taken, and he got a congressional medal for it. And these things make a difference. And we're going to keep doing this together with Rabbi Steinmetz. I know he's busy, right? But we're going to get it done, and we're going to be we're going to be active. We're not going to be press conference rabbis, but we're going to be action rabbis. And we're going to bring in young people that have such a tire in the neshama, like Dina, and Dina, you got to get to work,
He's working 45 hours a week. Not 45 hours a week.
Anyway, not too much, because she may ask for a big raise,
Anyway, I want to thank all of you, Adina Adler, because the Chesed Community Outreach Coordinator, Ramaz Upper School, and Mark Meyer Appel is founder of The Bridge over 10 years. And as you heard, they're bridging and bringing together the Jewish and non-Jewish community, especially in the case of the Bronx victims, where they actually made a difference. And Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz is a senior rabbi of Congregation Kehilat Jeshurun on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, together with Ramaz kids, also made a significant impact in helping those that lost loved ones, lost homes, lost property, were injured in the massive Bronx Fire. So I want to thank everybody for joining us and look forward to having you. Continued success, all of you.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Mazel tov, mazel
Continuous
tov.
Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to TalklineNetwork.com.